I wonder who could have been in that booth. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Whose Art It. In this episode, we get to sit down with arguably one of the most mysterious street artists there is out there at the moment. His name is John Doe, and in this interview, we break down a little bit about his art, also the messages behind a lot of his art, and also the processes of writing his first books. Enjoy. So hello, welcome back to Whose Art It. As you guys know, in this series, we get to sit down with some truly interesting and amazing artists. And I couldn't think of somebody better than to sit down with than the man that is John Doe. So we were having a bit of a conversation before we sat down and had a chat, John. And to me, being a viewer of your artwork, who is a big fan, might I add, I see John Doe as like a character, like this air of mystery around you. So to start off with, I just want to know a little bit, who is John Doe? Like, where did the name come from? Is there a message behind the name, etc., etc.?
I don't see myself as a legend, that's for sure. I'm just a guy that goes sneaking around, putting stuff up on walls. You know, it's something I enjoy doing, something I've done for many years. To me, that's what I'm more a traditional street artist. That's what it's about. To me, it's about getting the art on the walls. It's not about selling prints or art itself. It's getting the messages that I have out to the public.
So where did the name John Doe come from? Because you had a different name before John Doe became your art name.
Yeah, years ago, when I was a teenager, I used to paint under the name Dead Bird. But because when I restarted painting and got back into painting, probably about 10, 12 years ago, I was a bit concerned that my previous name would have caught up with me, and I was worried that some of the stuff I painted might have affected what I do now, so I changed the name.
So that's quite interesting, because I think a lot of artists would like to not necessarily erase some of their history, but maybe walk away from it so they can start something new. That must have been quite refreshing for yourself, having that change of name, so you could change with not necessarily your painting style, but going forward as an artist.
Yeah, I think the art has definitely changed over the years. Technology has changed over the years. If you look at cans now, you know, now you can change. You know, years ago it was cellulose. Used to paint with cellulose paint. It stunk like hell. Not good for the lungs.
No.
But now, you know, the paint is formulated especially for spray painting. You know, you can change the nozzles, the caps, the flow of the paint, you know, which affects the art. You know, you can paint something wonderful now compared to what you could, you know, 20 years or 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of speaking of the technical aspect of painting and the street art that you create, I'm really interested in sort of what inspires you. So is it other street artists, or does it run deeper than that?
To me, as a kid, I was always inspired by sort of hip hop, manga, comic books, films, movies, you know, even politics. You know, all those sort of things just go into my art, and it's just like a melting pot, really. You know, it's just all comes in and something comes out. You know, not always good, but something comes out. You know?
Absolutely. I think, you know, there's an argument to be made that that's one of the best ways to be as an artist, because, you know, there's just so many influences, I suppose, going in. Something has to come out.
That's it. Influences. Yeah, and not everything's good. You know, I admit that some of the things I do aren't always the best, you know, but it's churned around sometimes within under 8 hours. You know, with politics, you have to act quick. So from the idea to painting it on the wall, sometimes it's a matter of hours. Otherwise, the punchline's gone. You know, the joke's gone. It's like telling a joke and forgetting the punchline. You have to get that art out before politicians do a U-turn, or there's a change of policy or something.
That must be really tricky, because I suppose you've got to stay on top of news almost 24/7 in that regard.
Yeah, you see news coming up, an idea pops in your head, then you've got to get an image to go with it. Really, a lot of the time, street art is like a form of advertising. That's the way I see it.
Interesting.
You know, because as you walk past a piece of street art, you only have a matter of seconds to catch the viewer's attention.
Yeah.
You know, and the image has got to be snappy, and so with the words. You know, it's no use writing, you know, a whole paragraph because people ain't going to stop and read it.
No, very
so
true.
They have to catch that image and the punchline within seconds.
Yeah. That sort of brings me on to my next question with regards to, you know, your creativity and your process of creating your street art. Were you trained in the arts, or is this, you know? No
training at all.
No.
And it probably shows. No, to be quite honest, you know, the way I look at it, you look at people like Henry Matisse, you know, complete legend, or Keith Haring, you know, none of those I consider to be a fantastic artist, but they've got something that draws the viewer in.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the artwork and there's something there that, you know, pulls you into the artwork. You know, I think I've got that, not on that same level, but basically what I'm saying is everybody should give it a go. You know, I encourage everybody, to be honest, like, you know, so, you know, even if you're not that great at creating something, it's great for the mental health. Great to get out there and do something, like, you know.
Yeah,
if you've got a message, go and paint it.
Yeah. And you're based in Bristol, am I somewhat correct in assuming that? Didn't want to give away any secrets, you know. But being based in Bristol, obviously the street art scene here is arguably one of the strongest in the country in many respects. Do you think that has helped you create more work, or helped you sort of inspired you to create more work?
I think it's changed. To be honest, I don't see the street art scene here now being as strong as it's ever been. It's the weakest. Okay. I think now the graph scene has taken off. Street art seems to be temporarily dying out. You know, if you look at the amount of actual street art on the streets of Bristol, there's hardly any. You know, they had the new Outlander series on TV.
Yeah.
And if you look at the start of the credits, they're CGIing it in, you know, because it's not that much street art.
Yeah.
Even you look at the Vanguard show that was in Bristol, you know, to me it was 90% graph and contemporary art, hardly any street art. It's like having an apple pie, taking a bite and having a mouthful of pastry. You know? No offence there.
No, of course. So that's really interesting because by the sounds of things, you've sort of witnessed quite a change over the years.
Yeah, I think the scene has definitely changed. You know, where before you probably run around with a stencil, tin of paint, A4 stencil, get yourself noticed with the one tin of paint, you know? Now, it takes a while before people actually notice what you're putting up, you know? And there's so many artists trying to do it, you know?
And it's really interesting you say that, actually, because obviously Bristol is the base of probably arguably the world's most famous street artist, which is Banksy. And your work seems to draw comparisons to Banksy's in many respects. And I just wondered how that, as an individual, as an artist, how that sort of makes you feel. Honoured in a way, like, you know. I think a lot of it now is more clickbait. You know, I was in the paper this week and the journalist automatically apologised for the title. He said, sorry for the title, it's Banksy style or whatever it was, like, you know. So they know that it's generating viewers for their channel or the newspaper, you know. It's no longer focused on other artists. You know? Do you think, you know, his influence on the street art or the street art scene especially has been one of a positive, or you know, because his work obviously has transcended the streets in many capacities. It's now part of modern contemporary society in many ways, you know, speaking from seeing it on TV shows, even Outlaw, I believe there was a scene, an actor painting over an original of his, and it drew massive negativity online.
Yeah.
For yourself being, you know, a street artist, more than that, but, you know, primarily known as a street artist in many respects, do you think that's been a positive change over the years, or is it actually sort of changed the dynamic of being a street artist?
I think anything that brings extra people into the street art scene is a positive. You know, you can't get away from that. The scene that you just spoke about in Outlaws, you know, the way I see that is, you know, it probably took him an hour to cut and paint a stencil.
Yeah.
For that, it's got within just by painting it out, the amount of people that's got to see that clip, you know, it's generated millions of pounds worth of revenue, and the amount of people now want to watch the TV show for something that's been painted over. You know, and it's pushed him further up the rankings just by painting over it. You know, he can't lose out, you know, to be honest, like, you know.
No, absolutely.
And at the end of the day, that's what street art's about. You know, people goes over other people's work all the time, you know. And that's what it's up there for, you know. I know my stuff's going to go on over probably the next day, you know, but you still go out and put it up.
Yeah. There's obviously quite a deep sort of passionate drive for yourself as an individual to put that artwork out on the street. And that is really interesting because I know that you've painted in some major festivals such as Upfest and also smaller ones such as Bozfest where we first met. But also you do individual painting out on the street, you know, whether, you know, we won't talk about how you do that because that would be wrong to do so. But I just wanted to know for yourself, which one do you prefer? Is there a preference to painting in a major festival where there's crowds or people watching, or just going out by yourself on the street?
I'm fairly a private person, so even this interview is really out of my comfort zone.
It is, yeah. I will say to everybody.
So when you hear the voice shaking, this is
I'll say to everyone,
it's my real voice.
This interview, John never ever sits down, and especially in front of a camera. So this is a huge honour for me and also for us here at Keep Art It.
But sorry, please carry on.
Basically, I definitely prefer painting out on my own. You know, there's some buzz about going out in the middle of the night, painting something, you know, no lookout, no nothing. I do everything myself, you know. So from design, cutting by hand, putting it up, painting it on the streets is all me, you know. So technically, if I fail, it's me that's to blame, like, you know.
Yeah. So it's,
you know, things go wrong, and that's what I enjoy. Painting in festivals, I find nerve-wracking. You know, you got crowds behind you. Sometimes things go wrong, but normally after you've been in the game a while, you can put it right yourself, freehand it in, muck it in. You know, normally people don't notice if you made a mistake, like, you know. And the thing is, it is nerve-wracking when people are standing behind you, you know, and I still get amazed now when people come up and want to shake my hand and, you know, impressed to meet me and everything. And I'm just a guy that paints walls. You know?
yeah.
There must be, you know, for yourself, there's having that level of anonymity. Excuse my speaking, can never nail that word, but having that level of anonymity, see, we got there in the end, must, you know, in some respects be kind of this barrier for yourself to separate from, you know, your work sometimes, because your work, you know, arguably, I think you would agree, has quite a lot of political messaging behind it. And I was wondering how that sort of influenced your work, and also, you know, because you paint political work for so long, you know, have you seen that your work has actually helped to change people's ideologies?
I think painting political work is always going to get people's backs up. You know, at the end of the day, I know I'm not going to be shared on all the major pages and everything, like, you know, and but I'm not in it for that, you know. I'm not in there for the fame or the glory or none of that. The reason I'm in there is to get my message out, you know, and a lot of it is for a short period of time. You know, what I do, the message is probably only valid sometimes for 24 hours before something changes, like, so it's important to get that message out. What's the other part of the question?
It was
well, actually, there's an even more important question that I wanted to ask. You've recently released a series of books, which we have here on the table. If you guys are interested, they're on your website, I believe.
Yeah, my website. They're on Tangent Books. They're on everywhere. Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
But so you've recently released the book that I've been sort of going through, which is Street Art and Graffiti, a dissertation by John Doe. Tell me the process behind writing a book, because that is, you know, for the outsider like myself looking in, knowing you as the artist, that's quite a shift, going to then writing a book.
Yeah, I've always been a bit of a nerd, you know, so I've always enjoyed reading, you know. So the thing is, you read all these art books, and a lot of them are coffee table books, you know, really nice pictures, don't get me wrong, like, you flick through the book, And once you've seen it, you chuck it under the coffee table or put it in a bookcase and you never read it again.
Yeah.
Because there's not that much writing in that. The thing is, what I've done this time is I've tried to change that format. You know, if you look at mine's balanced with like 50% text and images. You know, it covers a lot more subjects than just my street art. You know, and the type of people that follow me is students, journalists, universities, you know, those sort of people, you know, and I get questions all the time. So I thought, well, why not create a book and cover some of the questions they've been asking in a little bit more detail?
Yeah,
because I've been helping write dissertations for a lot of these people, which is time consuming, you know, and there's stuff behind the scenes that people don't see, all that sort of the stuff away from the paintings on the street. So that helps out with a lot of that.
That was actually something I was going to ask. By writing this book, did it bring new insight into your work? You know, your creative process, even.
I think a lot of people have enjoyed the book. I've done a lot more school talks, you know. So I've been going around schools and giving little chats about street art, how it's put up, why I do it, the politics behind it, and all that sort of stuff. So it's nice to hopefully encourage the next generation.
That's really interesting, because also on top of the street art and graffiti book, you recently put out Coronavirus Street Art. So tell us a little bit more about this book and also the contents, because, you know, I'm interested to hear whether creating during the pandemic, so going out and actually painting and then also making a book, how that has helped you personally, whether it's helped you or hindered you. I'm just interested in that, because for all of us as artists, it's been a different process, I think.
Yeah, right from the start. I think it was difficult even getting hold of the materials, you know, because of shutdown and lockdown and everything. You couldn't get anything delivered. Everybody was buying stuff for the kids to make at home, just to keep them busy. So a lot of the stencils in there were drawn by hand and cut out bits of cereal boxes and stuff, like, you know, because I couldn't get hold of the cardboard, you know. So, you know, you produce something, then you go out and paint it on the streets. During lockdown, you're told not to go out except for exercise. I consider that my one form of exercise. So I don't think I was breaking the law.
I feel like there's a T-shirt design in there somewhere.
So yeah, to me, I was furloughed at the time. I had lots to say about the pandemic, the way it was handled. Everything in there, to me, is factually accurate. You know, to me, that's important. You know, that what I put spray on the streets, I research to make sure, as far as I am aware, that, you know, it is genuine. It is what it is.
So during the lockdown, you know, not to go too far back into it, because I think a lot of us want to just move on from coronavirus, but so you were going out and painting during the lockdown. That must have been, I'm guessing, quite an interesting feeling.
It was because empty. Yeah. But to me, that was more nerve-wracking. Yeah. Because empty streets, you're the only one out there, so you're visible to everybody painting. You know, it's different when, you know, you put a high-vis coat on and go out and paint or something. Nobody notices you. You blend into the crowd. But when you're the only person standing out there doing it, you know. But there was no police either. You know? So. It was a win-win, to be honest.
I was going to say, it sounds like perfect conditions in some ways.
So coming towards the end of this conversation, there's a couple of bigger questions I want to ask as well. So one of them is, you yourself has been, you know, somewhat vocal on your social medias with regards to the removal of street art, so pieces actually being taken off the street, and whether they're sold for profit or hung in a museum. And I was interested if you've ever had your pieces been, if you've ever been approached for your pieces to be removed and have that process, or, you know, sort of deeper down, how you would feel if long term that was something that was happening with your work.
I think most artists have at one point. You know, I had someone try and they rip something off the wall and try to sell it on Gumtree for £10,000, like, you know. And I've had my work covered in perspex, but more than likely it's normally buffed and jet washed, you know. You know, when you paint political art, a lot of the time the council wants to get rid of it, you know, and you can tag your name all over the city, nobody notices. But at the end of the day, the minute you put up something political, it's amazing how quick the councils will act.
Yeah, absolutely. Where's been, for you, this was another question I was quite interested in, where's been the best city or the best place you've ever painted on the street and the worst place? So maybe the hardest place and the easiest, or whatever I suppose the interpretation of the
Hardest
question is.
place. I like painting all over the place, to be honest. Like, actually, I paint more outside Bristol now than ever before. You know, Bristol's fairly saturated. You know, so to get my art out to a wider audience, I prefer just to go that little bit further out and paint somewhere else. At the moment, I'm painting Gloucester. Normally, Gloucester was painting over my stuff a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Now they're paying me to put it back up. You know, so you know, things change. You know, yeah, I just enjoy painting anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah.
I could imagine. I suppose it's. God, why did I not print this double-sided? I could imagine it's probably just getting out there.
It's out there, yeah. It's the buzz you get from painting. Unless you've done it, you know, and you stand out there in the middle of the night painting or early hours of the morning, you know, it's the buzz you get from it. There's nothing like it.
We were just saying that a little bit ago. That
I've experimented with a little bit of it, and there's that weird adrenaline addiction you get from it, I think, you know, of, am I going to get caught? Am I not? You know, it's something there. That's very interesting. And obviously your work, and a lot of people identify with John Doe's work being on the street and street art, but you've done a collection of gallery shows and you've shown work in more arguably traditional environments. Is that quite a strange transition for yourself as an artist?
I don't really enjoy gallery shows as much, to be honest. Like, I know I've done a few because my fan base have sort of demanded it. You know, the more people you've got to follow you, the more people want to buy your art. So you have to produce them. You know, I don't produce that much. You know, so you won't see me advertising prints on Instagram or Facebook and stuff. Normally it sits on my website and just stays there. You know, if someone wants one, they'll have one, you know? But I don't go out promoting art. To me, I get my buzz out of doing street art on the streets.
Absolutely.
My art sells well. I must admit, at my book show, I sold 80% of the art within 4 hours, you know?
Wow.
You know, people were buying it. I was selling it straight from the walls. The more I took it off the walls, the more people were buying it, you know? And people were even taking it off themselves in the end and bringing it to me, like, you know, so afraid someone else was going to buy it. So
you should make a John Doe supermarket where it's just your work on the walls. That sounds like an installation piece.
But I maybe a show in London coming up. It should have happened this year with COVID. It's probably it was planned around COP26, you know, but with COVID and everything, it wasn't going to happen. So. Maybe next year, maybe London next year.
Well, that brings me beautifully onto the last section of questions that I have, which is obviously I think a lot of us who are fans of your work and audiences looking at your work, we're interested in what the future kind of has hold for you, for John Doe. What's in the pipe? Like, what can you tell us that's in the pipeline, anyways?
I got absolute stacks on it. I got commissions coming out in my ears. I've got I'm working for Gloucestershire Council, doing a few bits in there at the moment. There's going to be some charity stuff coming up. I'd like doing stuff for charity and promoting businesses and stuff like that. So it's not all big money making things, but plenty on at the moment.
So the last question, and our audience members are probably used to hearing either me or Doug, who presents these interviews, these questions. We always ask the last two questions. We call them, we don't actually have a name for them yet. This is something we need to think about, but they're kind of two quite difficult questions, and they are, who is your favorite artist, or who are your favorite artists, and who are your least favorite artists?
Nobody ever wants to talk about who's their least favorite.
That needs to be called the cringe question. Yeah. Definitely. Well, I suppose favorite artist got to be someone who's like Salvador Dali, someone like that. To me, that was the person when I was at school inspired me. You know, because I'd never seen nothing like it. Yeah. You know, going through the books and seeing something weird and wonderful, and you know, it wasn't street art. To me, that was something different. You know, artists I don't like.
It's always the tricky one.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention that. At the end of the day, I'm not that type of guy. If I got a problem with an artist, I just distance myself, to be honest. Like, you know?
Of course.
That's the best answer you could give.
Yeah.
We've done an interview before, and somebody's listed off a name.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
There's a lot going on.
I'm not going to start a beef, and I'm not going to give them, you know,
the gratitude.
The gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what shall we promote of John Doe? What can we promote? Obviously, you've still got your books, which I believe we were saying on your website.
They're on my website. And available from many other stockists. Probably if you Google it, it will come up. But the books are both available at the moment. The coronavirus book is getting very, very low. Probably might only release that one again on Amazon, not through the shop. You know, I got a guy that does all. I work full time, so basically I'm a part-time artist. Yeah, many people think I work full time as an artist. It's part-time. Got some guy that does all my wrapping, packing, and postage, because I could never manage to keep up with all that.
You're sleeping.
That's it.
Awesome. So, guys, everybody that's watching this video, make sure you head over to John's website. The link will be down below to check out the 2 books that he has currently up for sale: Coronavirus, Street Art by John Doe, and also my personal favorite right now, which is Street Art and Graffiti, dissertation by John. So you have social medias and everything?
Yep.
So Twitter, Instagram, I'm guessing.
At John Doe Art.
Beautiful. The easiest name to remember. So make sure you go check them out as well, guys. Check out John's social medias. Thank you ever so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks anybody who's watching, and stay to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. This one was a long one, but it was worth it, 100%.
So guys, make sure that you like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you share it out. Check out John's work. It'd be much appreciated. And yeah, remember to just keep at it.
The rules do not apply to you.